The story begins in 1963 with the Ford Motor Company facing serious financial problems. Car sales continue to fall, and the future of the company starts looking uncertain. Concerned by this situation, company owner Henry Ford stops vehicle production and gathers all of his employees. He warns them that if sales keep dropping, Ford could soon go bankrupt.
That's the sound of the Ford Motor Company out of business. Man comes to my office with an idea, that man keeps his job.
As Ford searches for a solution, Vice President Lee Iacocca presents a bold plan. Instead of trying to compete with Ferrari, he proposes buying the famous Italian company. Lee believes that Ferrari's strong reputation, racing success, and worldwide popularity can improve Ford's image and increase sales. Some executives doubt the idea at first, but the company eventually agrees to move forward. A team is sent to Italy to begin negotiations with Ferrari. Ford offers a huge amount of money to purchase Ferrari's shares, and the discussions progress well for a while. However, during the final stage of the deal, Enzo Ferrari carefully reviews the contract and discovers a condition that changes everything. The clause would limit Ferrari's freedom to make important decisions regarding racing competitions. Since racing is the most important part of Ferrari's life, he becomes extremely angry after reading it. Instead of completing the agreement, Enzo Ferrari immediately rejects the offer. He insults Ford's representatives and dismisses the entire proposal. He mocks Ford's cars and personally attacks Henry Ford, comparing him unfavorably to his father and questioning his abilities.
La mia dignità di costruttore.
Italian is deeply insulted by your proposal.
Arroganti dirigenti sono.
Tell your pig-headed boss that all his worthless sons of whores.
The negotiations collapse instantly, and Ford's team leaves Italy humiliated after failing to secure the purchase. After that, Henry Ford becomes furious after learning about Ferrari's insults. He announces that Ford will challenge Ferrari where it matters most, on the racetrack. His new goal is simple but ambitious. Ford will enter the legendary Le Mans race and defeat Ferrari in front of the entire world.
I want the best engineers, the best drivers. We're gonna build a race car.
To achieve this objective, Ford turns to Carroll Shelby, one of the most respected figures in motorsports. Shelby is a former racing champion and talented engineer who once won the Le Mans race himself. Years earlier, he retired from professional racing because of a serious heart condition that made intense competition dangerous for him. Although he no longer races, he now owns Shelby American, a company that designs high-performance sports cars and participates in smaller racing events. The story then introduces Ken Miles, another key figure in the film. Ken is a former military officer, skilled mechanical engineer, and exceptionally talented race car driver. He lives with his wife and young son while operating a garage where he repairs, modifies, and improves automobiles. His deep understanding of cars and remarkable driving ability make him one of the best racers around, even though he often struggles to gain recognition. Later, Lee Iacocca meets with Carroll Shelby and explains Ford's ambitious plan to conquer Le Mans. Shelby reminds him that winning the famous endurance race is incredibly difficult. Success requires a machine that is fast, lightweight, reliable, and capable of surviving 24 non-stop hours of racing.
I can assure you I'm not here for money that you might owe Ford for spare parts. He wanted his company to win the 24 hours of Le Mans.
Lee emphasizes that Henry Ford is fully committed to the project and is prepared to spend whatever amount is necessary to win. Shelby finally agrees to build the car Ford needs. Although his heart condition prevents him from driving, he reveals that he already knows the perfect racer whose extraordinary talent can help Ford challenge Ferrari and fight for victory at Le Mans. As Carroll Shelby continues explaining Ford's ambitious racing project, he informs Ken Miles that they have only 90 days to build a car capable of defeating Ferrari at the famous Le Mans race. Shelby believes that no other driver is better suited for this challenge than Ken. The two men share a long history together and have competed alongside each other in the past. Because of this experience, Shelby fully trusts Ken's driving ability and technical knowledge. Even with Shelby's confidence in him, Ken initially hesitates to join the project. He feels frustrated with large corporations and believes that Ford's executives care more about protecting their public image than listening to talented engineers and drivers. However, Shelby then reveals an important detail about the job. The position comes with a salary of $200 per day, an amount that immediately grabs Ken's attention because of his difficult financial situation.
To beat old man Ferrari with a Ford.
Correct. It's coming straight from the deuce. They're gonna put real money behind it.
At this point, Ken is struggling to support his family. His garage has recently been shut down after he fails to keep up with loan payments, leaving him with very few options. Racing, which has always been his greatest passion, is no longer providing enough income to support his wife and son. Faced with mounting financial pressure, Ken realizes that joining Shelby's team may be his best opportunity to rebuild his life. After carefully considering the offer, he finally agrees to become part of the project. The following day, Shelby and Ken travel to an airport in Los Angeles, where Ford's new racing vehicle, GT40, waits for testing. Ford hopes it will become the machine that finally challenges Ferrari. Ken takes the car onto the track and begins pushing it to its limits. Although the vehicle looks impressive, he quickly notices several serious problems. After completing the test, he provides detailed feedback and explains that the car lacks the power expected from a top-level race machine.
Well, it's awful. The third gear is too high.
Anything else?
Torque is not reaching the road.
Ken also identifies another major issue. The GT40 is simply too heavy. As the car reaches extremely high speeds, it becomes difficult to control and feels unstable. According to his assessment, once the speed approaches 200 miles per hour, the vehicle begins behaving unpredictably. Instead of responding naturally to the driver's commands, it feels as though the car is taking control. Ken makes it clear that unless these problems are fixed, the GT40 will never be capable of defeating Ferrari at Le Mans. After that, Shelby's team begins working around the clock. Using Ken's observations after each test session, the engineers make constant improvements to the car. They install a more powerful engine to increase speed and acceleration. Several heavy components are redesigned and replaced with lightweight aluminum parts to improve handling and reduce overall weight. Through endless testing, the GT40 gradually evolves into a much stronger and more competitive race car. As development continues, Ford executive Leo Beebe arrives to inspect the project's progress. He is impressed by the improvements and recognizes that the GT40 is becoming a serious contender. Despite admiring the car, however, he remains unconvinced about Ken Miles. Leo dislikes Ken's outspoken personality and short temper. He worries that Ken's blunt behavior could create problems for Ford and damage the company's carefully managed public image. Because of these concerns, Leo informs Shelby that Ken will not be chosen to drive Ford's cars in the upcoming Le Mans race. Shelby opposes this decision and argues that Ken is the person most responsible for transforming the GT40 into a competitive machine. He points out that racing at Le Mans requires more than driving skill alone.
What exactly does that mean?
ABC puts a microphone under his nose. Millions watching. Do you trust him not to? So you don't agree with us on this issue?
I'm saying you gotta trust me on this one.
Unfortunately, Leo ignores these arguments and leaves without changing his decision. When Shelby later shares the news with Ken, the disappointment hits hard. Ken has devoted countless hours, endless effort, and tremendous passion to developing the GT40. Knowing that he may never race the very car he helps create is heartbreaking. Even so, he controls his emotions and avoids blaming Shelby. Instead, he quietly offers some final advice before accepting the painful reality of Ford's decision. Before leaving the project, Ken Miles gives Carroll Shelby some important advice about the GT40. Drawing from months of testing and development, he urges Shelby to remind the drivers to treat the gearbox carefully.
Tell the boys to watch there. The gearbox will overheat,
increasing the risk of serious mechanical failures during the race. Although he is disappointed about not being selected to drive, he still wants the team to succeed. The next day, the famous Le Mans race begins. Since he is unable to participate, Ken follows the event from home and listens to the race coverage on the radio. Ford enters 3 GT40 race cars into the competition, and during the opening hours, everything appears promising. The cars show impressive speed and manage to challenge Ferrari on the track. For a brief moment, it seems as though Ford's dream of victory may finally become a reality. Unfortunately, the optimism does not last long. At the same time, the engines begin overheating as the cars are pushed harder and harder. Within only a few hours, the situation becomes disastrous. The mechanical failures grow more severe, and each Ford car eventually suffers problems serious enough to force retirement from the race. The company invests enormous amounts of money and effort, yet once again, Ferrari remains on top. Following the disappointing result, Henry Ford summons Carroll Shelby to his office. Shelby remains calm despite the pressure and highlights an important achievement that many people overlook. He points out that although Ford loses the race, one of their cars reaches a speed of 320 kilometers per hour, setting a remarkable benchmark. For the first time in Le Mans history, a Ford demonstrates that level of performance.
Now, the good news, as I see it, still managed to put old Mr. Ferrari exactly where we want him. We don't even know if our paint job will last the whole 24 hours. We clocked 218 miles an hour, and now he knows.
Shelby argues that Ferrari now understands Ford's potential and realizes that a serious challenger has arrived. Shelby's confidence and determination ultimately convinces Henry Ford to continue supporting the project. Refusing to give up, Shelby visits Ken Miles at his home and attempts to bring him back to the team. Before the conversation progresses, Ken responds with a punch. The two friends end up playful blows across the yard. Their fight is more humorous, and eventually, both men collapse from exhaustion. Despite the unusual reunion, Shelby succeeds in convincing Ken to return. The following day, they resume work on improving the GT40. Ken spends countless hours behind the wheel, testing every aspect of the car and searching for weaknesses. Although the team already upgrades the engine, the vehicle remains heavier than it should be. The braking system also presents another major challenge because it struggles to handle repeated braking from speeds above 320 kilometers per hour. Shelby's engineers carefully study every piece of feedback and continue refining the car. As development progresses, Shelby receives a phone call from Lee Iacocca. Lee informs him that Leo Beebe has become the head of Ford's racing division. More importantly, he warns that Leo strongly dislikes Ken Miles and may look for any opportunity to remove him from the program. This creates another obstacle for the team as they prepare for future races. The next day, Henry Ford arrives to inspect the latest version of the GT40. While Shelby guides him through the improvements, Leo requests a private meeting. Shelby agrees, but unexpectedly locks Leo inside his office before returning to the inspection. He then takes Henry Ford II out for a high-speed test drive in the race car. During the ride, Shelby pushes the GT40 to its limits and demonstrates its incredible power, speed, and handling. The experience overwhelms Henry emotionally because he finally understands the courage required to drive such a machine. Using this moment, Shelby explains that no driver understands the car better than Ken Miles. Although Henry remains uncertain, Shelby proposes a compromise. He suggests allowing Ken to compete in the upcoming Daytona race, with a victory earning him a place at Le Mans. Henry accepts the proposal, and preparations begin immediately. A few days later, the Daytona Endurance race arrives. Ford enters two separate teams, one managed by Shelby and the other controlled by Leo Beebe. For most of the race, Leo's team remains in front, while Ken carefully limits engine speed to avoid mechanical problems. As the final hours approach, Shelby realizes they are running out of time. Victory now depends on whether Ken is willing to take a dangerous risk and push the GT40 beyond its limits. Realizing that Ken Miles must increase his speed if he wants any chance of winning, Carroll Shelby quickly prepares a pit board displaying 7,000 revolutions per minute and shows it to him as he passes by. Ken immediately understands what Shelby is asking him to do. Pushing the engine to 7,000 revolutions per minute is extremely dangerous and carries a serious risk of mechanical failure. But at this stage of the race, Ken is focused entirely on victory. Trusting both his own abilities and the car they have spent years developing, he decides to take the risk. Ken begins driving far more aggressively and starts gaining ground on the competition. Before long, he overtakes Ford's other driver and pulls ahead by a comfortable margin. Despite the enormous strain placed on the engine, the GT40 continues performing flawlessly. Ken eventually wins the Daytona race by a significant distance, proving once again that he is Ford's best driver. According to the agreement made earlier, the victory secures his place in the upcoming Le Mans race. News of Ford's success quickly reaches Henry Ford II, who is delighted by the result. The company finally has proof that its racing program is moving in the right direction. As weeks pass, anticipation continues to build until the long-awaited day finally arrives. It is June 18, 1966, and only minutes remain before the start of the legendary Le Mans race. Ford enters 3 GT40s into the competition, fully determined to defeat Ferrari on the biggest endurance racing stage in the world. Once the race begins, Ken quickly demonstrates why Shelby fights so hard to keep him on the team. However, an unexpected problem soon appears when the door on his car refuses to close properly. Knowing the issue could become dangerous at high speeds, Ken returns to the pits and requests immediate repairs.
Bloody door!
With the issue fixed, Ken heads back onto the track without wasting valuable time. As the race continues, Ken drives brilliantly and pushes the GT40 to its limits. Before long, he records the fastest lap ever achieved around the circuit, setting a new benchmark for everyone else. The achievement excites Ford's team and proves that the GT40 is finally capable of matching Ferrari's best machines. While most people celebrate the accomplishment, Leo Beebe remains unimpressed and continues viewing Ken with suspicion. After many exhausting hours behind the wheel, Ken Ken enters the pit lane for a brief period of rest. During this stop, the team discovers another serious problem. The brakes are wearing out rapidly and could fail completely if the car continues at full speed. To avoid a dangerous accident, Ken carefully slows down and returns to the pits. Shelby's mechanics immediately begin replacing the damaged brake system. The repair process quickly sparks controversy. Some race officials argue that changing the brakes violates the regulations and could lead to disqualification. After reviewing the rules, it becomes clear that no such restriction actually exists. Many believe the protest is simply an attempt to slow Ford's progress and protect Ferrari's chances.
Brakes! Nothing! Gone! C'est contre les règles. It's against the rules. You show me where it says in your book the weight. You show me where it says in that little rule book where I can't.
Eventually, the officials back down, the repairs are completed, and Ken returns to the race. As the second day begins, Ferrari's position grows weaker. One of its leading cars suffers a major engine failure and is forced to retire. Suddenly, Ford finds itself in a perfect position to achieve the victory it has pursued for years. With the finish line approaching, the dream of defeating Ferrari finally appears within reach. At this crucial moment, Leo Beebe approaches Henry Ford II with a new idea. He proposes that all three Ford cars cross the finish line together. In his view, such an image would create unforgettable publicity and become one of the most famous photographs in racing history. Henry likes the concept and approves the plan. The problem, however, is that Ken is far ahead of the other drivers and must slow down to make it happen. When Leo presents the proposal to Shelby, he is deeply upset. Shelby believes Ken deserves an undisputed victory after everything he sacrifices to develop the GT40. Still, when Ken arrives in the pits, Shelby explains the situation and allows him to make the final choice himself. During the final lap, Ken proves his talent once again by breaking his own lap record. Yet despite being capable of winning easily, he reduces his speed and allows the other Ford cars to catch up. The three GT40s eventually cross the finish line side by side, creating the historic image Ford wants. Ken believes the result means all three drivers will share the victory. Unfortunately, the official rules produce a different outcome. Bruce McLaren is declared the winner because his car starts farther back on the grid and technically travels a greater distance during the race. When Shelby learns the truth, he is devastated. What should have been the greatest triumph of Ken Miles' career turns into heartbreaking disappointment. Although Ken is disappointed by the result, he handles the situation with remarkable grace. He does not blame Shelby or show any bitterness toward him. Instead, he thanks Shelby for giving him the chance to compete in the race. Even after missing the victory, Ken remains determined and believes that they will come back stronger and become champions at the next Le Mans race. Several months pass after the competition. One day, while testing a race car, Ken suffers a tragic accident when the car's brakes fail and cause him to lose control. The vehicle crashes, and Ken Miles loses his life.